Nusantara TV, sahabat kita.
Sosok Tom Bayer mencuat dan diperbincangkan saat timnas Indonesia secara menyakitkan harus mengakui keunggulan Jepang 6-0 di laga terakhir grup C kualifikasi Piala Dunia 2026. Tom Bayer yang kini menjadi pemandu bakat usia muda di Jepang mengaku pernah mencoba untuk mengembangkan bakat-bakat muda di Indonesia. Namun, politik sepak bola di Indonesia dinilai terlalu melelahkan. Bahkan, ia juga meyakini kalau Indonesia sebenarnya bisa kok menjadi Brasilnya Asia Tenggara. Nah, nggak usah lama-lama lagi deh ya, kita langsung aja ngobrol sama Tom Bayer. Ada orangnya langsung sudah bergabung bersama NTV Sport kali ini. Hello Mr. Tom Bayer, good afternoon.
Hello, hi. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you for your time to share your thoughts and opinion about football, especially in Indonesia.
Yes, I'm really a big follower of Indonesian football for many years, so I'm happy to talk football.
Yeah, so we are. So, first of all, we would love to hear, of course, your opinion about the result of the World Cup qualifying round 3 between Japan versus Indonesia, right? Which we know that the result is 6-0, which is it's disappointing for Indonesia's side. So, what's your take on this result?
Yeah, well, it could have actually been even a bigger score, I think. I just went through and watched the highlights again, and it could have been 10-0. I think it's just the stark reality of the level of play that we have in Japan compared to Indonesia, where Japanese football has focused for many, many decades on grassroots football development, and in particular, ensuring that our players are very strong when it comes to technical skill acquisition. So you can see it, and the bad news for Indonesia is that team, that starting 11 for Japan, was not the first team. That was the second team or some of the guys from the third team. So it just goes to show where Indonesia is when you compare to perhaps the best or one of the best inside AFC.
Yes, of course. Just like you said, this is even the second player. So the score is 6-7, which is it's definitely reflected the gap in FIFA rankings and of course the level of experience that you said. Did anything stand out to you tactically or technically that caught your attention?
Well, I kind of knew that it was going to probably be a big score because I knew that the young boys were being given a chance to showcase themselves right before being selected or considered selected for the national team. So I knew they were going to be very hungry. They were going to be very aggressive. There was going to be a very attacking style of football by the Japanese. But other than that, there wasn't really too many other surprises because, again, I've been here for over 40 years, and I can see the work that we've put in over the last 40 years, where now we have this explosion of Japanese elite players that are playing at some of the biggest clubs and competitions in the world in Europe.
All right. So, okay, now let's talk about the Garuda squad. What's your assessment of our national team squad, which is we know that we have so many naturalizations player, right? So do you have any player that maybe you think the potential is very good, or including the young players in our squad?
Yeah, I mean, the players that you have, there's some good players, of course, and, that's the big controversy about, the local players level versus the imported players. Obviously, you've got a very competent, I thought your goalkeeper is actually quite good. It's just that it was a very difficult game against Japan. But even defensively, you've got some good players, whether it's Jaides or Calvin Verdonk. I mean, there's some very good players. And also even, in the midfield and attacking players as well. But, my problem is that this isn't a very sustainable strategy to have these players that are coming. It kind of undermines the grassroots and local player development. It's not really sustainable. It doesn't really help to build a true football culture in Indonesia. And it doesn't really solve the root problem, which is Indonesia's challenge really lies in the grassroots infrastructure, early skill acquisition and education. It's not the lack of elite players. So it's short-term thinking, but it's a long-term kind of harming of the program. But, I can understand that, Indonesia is just very frustrated not being able to participate in these, worldwide competitions such as World Cup, Asian Cup, and things like that. And that's why I posted on social media recently that I believe still that Indonesia could be the Brazil of Southeast Asia, because you have all of the makings there, you have all the passion, you have the excitement, but there's certain kind of organizational skills and infrastructure and thinking that needs to change a bit to get to the top.
Okay, so you've spent years immersed in youth development across Asia, right? Just like your statement. And of course, you even have experience in Indonesia to develop young players in Indonesia. How closely have you followed Indonesian football from the grassroots and youth development? And then you can post that statement, very bold statement that you post.
Yes. Well, I've spent a lot of time, not as of recently, but over the years. I've traveled around the country, many places as well. I've conducted coaching clinics, clinics for children as well. So Indonesia at the youth level has some very, very good players. The problem is here. The problem is that the gap between the very best young kids and the least developed kids, that gap is too big. In Japan, that gap is very tiny. And so when you close the gap on the level at the youngest ages, that's when a country's elite player pool expands. It explodes. And that's what we're seeing in Japan today. Today, we're seeing an explosion of players that are going to European leagues and clubs, some of the biggest in the world. And that work started 30, 35 years ago. So there's no really quick fix for developing players. It's a process. I always say it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. So you have to manage the expectations, but it all starts with grassroots development.
Could you tell us how to eliminate the gap between the good young players and the other players? Like you said, in Japan, you send your players to Europe and everything, right? So what about in Indonesia? Do we have any chance to do the same like Japan, so we can follow your potential, your skills?
Yes, well, if you look at the true footballing nations in the world, they're built upon from the bottom up, not top down.
Okay.
So I have a philosophy which I'm very, very kind of a strong opinion about, and that is that football starts at home. It starts as young as a child can start walking. So when you look at some of the countries that develop the best players in the world, it's not the result of coaching.
Yes.
It's the result of a very early head start, because in Latin countries in particular, Latin fathers will use football as a tool to bond with their children. So they get a tremendous head start. So in Indonesia, you have millions and millions of children under the age of 6. If you can educate parents into how they play and interact with their children using a ball, they will get a tremendous head start before they cross over the line into organized play. So here it is. Here's the national curriculum for Indonesia, okay, for everybody listening. Develop a little army of little 5- and 6-year-old boys and girls that are skilled at what we call ball mastery. They master the ball. They've fallen in love with the ball. Then just give them opportunities to play. And you will see the level change, the transformation will be so remarkable. And then all of the other parts of the game come together. The problem is that in Indonesia and many other countries throughout the world, most people and organizations believe that in order to develop top players, most of the hard work happens at the elite academy level. It's wrong. Most of the hard work happens at the entry level. That's why the parents are so important. Most federations don't recognize the importance of parent and their role of facilitating a child's love for a ball. So there needs to be a movement. There needs to be a different mindset in Indonesia. So for me, if I was in a position of influence inside Indonesian football, I would be focusing on the parents of very young children.
Okay. Well, now you've seen what happened in Indonesia, especially in that you say that the football in Indonesia is too exhausting due to the politics, like you said, right? So how long does it take for us, Indonesia, to overcome all the challenge, all the problem that you said to us?
Well, I think I just kind of supplied the solution, and that is much more knowledgeable, educated parents, because parents are at the forefront of development. The reason that everybody's so frustrated and it becomes very political is because you're not able to develop top-level football players that can compete with the very best. So my whole philosophy and my whole strategy is to kind of bypass that political kind of circus that I call it, and basically talk and communicate directly with parents. We have many political problems in many football federations and associations around the world. But if you look at Latin America, Brazil, Argentina, Uruguay, those federations, they have the same problems that many of the other organizations have, including the PSSI, but they develop an army of great players because of the culture. The culture is the most important fact when it comes to developing football players. Culture more than coaching.
Yes, I agree. Culture is one of the base that we should have, the culture of football. So talking about culture of football, like you said, Indonesia could become the Brazil of Asia. Like Brazil, the culture of football in Brazil is crazy, it's insane, right? How could you say that? Is there anything that you see, like maybe this is the similar thing from Brazil and Indonesia?
Yes, and that is that, again, Indonesian people have an unbelievable passion for football, both watching it, participating, of course, supporting your national team as well. But again, it always circles back to the same thing that I always say. Countries and federations, governments, ministries of sport and education, they need to do a better job of understanding the role that parents have. Everything starts at home when it comes to children. So we need to create a culture, and if you know, culture, that's a powerful word, but many people don't understand what it means. Culture means when a family, a community, a country share in the same beliefs and values. And in Brazil and in South America and in European countries, that culture of development understands the importance of ball mastery. In those countries, young children don't fall in love with playing football first. They fall in love with the ball first. And that leads to a lifetime of loving and passion of watching football, participating in football, and supporting football.
Okay, let's talk about the naturalization that has been the hot topic lately, right? With more foreign-born players joining the national team and the world starting to pay attention. As someone focused on youth development, do you see this trend as a shortcut, solution, or a sign of deeper change in the system?
You're talking about the naturalization of the players coming?
Yes.
Again, like I said, I can understand the feeling of why people want to do this because they're so frustrated because Indonesia should by now be playing at on the biggest world stage. But my concern, again, is that it undermines the grassroots and the local player development. And it's not sustainable because you might have a short-term result, but you're not creating a long, sustainable kind of generation of players that can continue. It also kind of hinders a little bit coaches' development because coaches and development goes hand in hand with local talent development. So relying on foreign players it shifts the focus away from improving local coaching standards and curriculum. You can't really raise the level of the domestic league or training environments without good coaches. And so I'm a big believer that we need to do a much better job in Indonesia of developing both the coaches and the players. But I can understand that feeling of wanting to have that success quickly, but I think that it's a bit misguided.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Tom Bayer, to share your thought, your opinion. Even you give us a solution how to develop the young players, youngster in Indonesia. I hope this interview could make a big impact, both for the stakeholders and also for the young players who love football and want to pursue their dream through football. Thank you so much for your time. Have a good day.
Thank you very much.
Dan itu dia tadi wawancara singkat saya dengan Tom Bayer, dan kita akan lanjutkan ke informasi berikutnya.